What's up, guys? Welcome to the episode. Today I'm going to talk about the type of insulins I use. And before we get into the episode, I just want to remind you guys a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a healthcare professional. Please do not take my advice. I'm just sharing my story and documenting my journey with type 1 diabetes. That being said, let's get into it. I've had type 1 diabetes for 3 years now. I'm insulin dependent, so I'm on an intense insulin therapy regimen. That didn't sound right. um, so the first kind of insulin I use let's talk about basal insulin. For those of you who don't know, basal insulin is the insulin that keeps your blood sugar steady during a fasted state, i.e., not eating, sleeping, in between meals, etc. Basal insulin I use is Levemir. I use vials and syringes. Now, all these insulins I use are recommended from Dr. Bernstein. Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. He recommends all these kinds of insulins for the majority of his patients. Now, I'm not his patient, but I read his book, and Levemir is used instead of Lantus. I've used Lantus for almost 3 years, and a lot of you might disagree with me, but this is what Dr. Bernstein says after many studies of many years. Lantus is known to increase the chance of cancer. And why? There's something I don't know what it is. It's called GLP-1 receptors. Those are the things that are more likely to cause cancer in our body. So it's not a huge risk that you take Lantus, but I just switched it anyways. Levemir is cheaper as well. And so that's my basal insulin. I inject it and I split my basal insulin as Bernstein teaches. Bernstein teaches the approach of, taking one shot every 12 hours or 24 hours is wrong, because what it is you're taking a huge superficial, if I said that right, super physiologic, I don't know what's the word, and almost it becomes a bolus when you inject that much basal to hold you for 12, 24 hours as an insulin dependent person, let's say. If you're injecting, 24 units in one spot in your stomach, your butt, your arm, whatever the case may be, that becomes like a large bolus, and it doesn't keep your blood sugar. It doesn't become a basal insulin, which is supposed to be steady. And the way to test that is to not eat and fast and not take any bolus insulin and see how your levels are. If 1 hour you're 90 milligrams per deciliter, and then 2 hours later you're 160 and you haven't ate, you haven't bolused, your basal is not set right. Now there's many other factors, as I always say with diabetes, but that's the main juice of it. Oh shit, is that a B? Okay, and I'm not an expert, like I said in the beginning. I'm still trying to figure out my basal insulin. So the way I split it is bedtime for me is about midnight, 11:30, 12:30, 1 a.m. I'll take about 13 units, but I don't take all those 13 units in one area. I take them in 3 different spots in my stomach, and I try to keep my basal insulin in my fat, because Bernstein recommends inject your basal insulin where you have the most fat, because if you inject it in a muscle, it kind of doesn't make it a basal insulin anymore. It defeats the purpose, because when you inject it in a muscle, it works faster and it leaves your body quicker, so it becomes unpredictable. The other part of the unpredictability is when you inject more than 7 units in one area, the more unpredictable insulin becomes. It works sooner, and it drops your blood sugar, rather how you would say unpredictable. Okay, so that's my basal insulin. In the morning, I inject about 8 units, 6 a.m. I try to keep it 5 to 6 hours apart, because what happens is when you inject at night, your nighttime injection only lasts a max of 8 hours, maybe 6 hours, maybe 5. And the morning shot lasts you supposedly 18 hours. That's what Bernstein says. I want to switch to Tresiba very soon because it lasts longer. I don't have to wake up earlier, set an alarm, and take my injection. Let's move on to bolus. Bolus insulin for me is Novolog. I don't use Novolog most of the time. Those are to correct my high blood sugars. I use a flex pen. I want to switch to syringes as well. Why? Because flex pens take too long. They're always leaking. I just hate flex pens in general. It's cool, the flexibility, flexibility of the units, of just twisting the cap or twisting the bottom end to get your units. I like syringes because it's quicker. So I use Novolog for my dawn phenomenon when I'm trying to eat breakfast. I've been having crazy dawn phenomenon, morning hormones. And Novolin, the reason why Novolin regular, it's a human insulin diluted by 20-fold, is recommended by Bernstein because it matches the spike of protein digestion perfectly, versus if you use Humalog, Novolog, Fiasp, Nova Rapid, it's too potent, and what happens is the beginning you might drop too low because it's too fast and potent compared to having a high protein diet and a low carb diet, and then you spike up later because your insulin peaks in an hour is what happens, and it does the majority of its work in 3 hours. So what happens with Novolin is you're matching two steady peaks. Novolin is a small peak, just like protein. If you were to have a steak, a chicken, eggs, whatever the case may be, and you're eating low carb vegetables, fiber, and all that good stuff. That's my bolus insulin. Those are my main three insulins. I know there's a lot of people that agree this is a controversial topic. To be honest, the reason why I follow Bernstein is simple. He's had diabetes for about 7 decades. He's had results with his diabetes. And I'm just passionate about getting results and having longevity. I'm not married or fixed to one way of eating or living with my diabetes. I just want results, even if that means drinking cricket protein powder. That means getting good blood sugars, I'll do it. Or dance like a ballerina in the morning. I don't care. I just want results, and whatever the case may be. So comment your thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening.